I'll give you a clue. It was Grimsby.
They are pressing quite well. What's happened there? You've got to be joking.
Oh, sorry, I've done it wrong around. I've drawn an arrow and I haven't seen it. Sorry.
He must have a horseshoe up his arse.
If we're playing on professional and that's happening for Barcelona,
2 years ago. Sorry about that. I don't know what that was.
I'm sorry, that's just put me off the game. I'm not having that.
Anyway, segue, moving on.
What has that got to do with football? Why is that at a football ground?
Hello and welcome to another Ramble from the Honest Football Podcast, where we bring honesty back to the beautiful game. I'm Daniel Cody, and joining me as always are Craig Savage and Charlie Betts. And today we've also got a special guest host, Sunday League managerial mastermind, Ben Savage.
How you doing, guys? You alright?
Coming up, we introduce our guests, agents' fees, Moroccan selfies, stadium names, and don't forget any other business, and name the matchday squad. So Ben, welcome to the Ramble. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Well, first things first, I'm your brother.
That is true. That is true.
It's probably it might have been the giveaway when you said
Ben
Ben
Savage.
Savage. But yes, I am your older brother. Now, no, in fact, I've played football. You asked me already.
No, I don't have many stats about these two, but I do have one, and this is my favourite one out of all of them. But do you want to do it with me? About you?
Ben has
so basically, Craig has obviously played football at a high level for many years. Ben, a local Sunday League legend in terms of management, played one season. And how many leagues did you win, Ben, as a player?
Do you know what? The very first full season I played, I won the league title.
And Craig, in your, what would be about nearly 16 years of playing adult football, how many leagues have you won?
One.
One as well? Oh, okay.
I should have four.
Was it the same one?
Yeah.
Do you know what? It was the same season. Yes, it was a memorable season.
So you could say your brother carried you for that season.
Carried you too.
No. I think the thing that links all of us, obviously, you know, he's your brother. We've grown up as friends, and then we've all played for the same Sunday League football team, which we'll move on to.
It's going to link nicely to next week's special about Sunday League football.
Yeah. But yeah, so anyway.
just to remind you guys why I'm here. Me and brother won the same amount of league titles.
Yes, that is the most important.
We needed a bit
not
more.
because you and Charlie used to live together. No, not that.
That was the benefit of the whole situation.
Yeah.
Before that, we won the league in the same year.
But yeah. Anyway, football talk. What have you been up to, lads?
Since when did we talk about football?
No, I know. No, have you got any food stories, Dan? Have you got
Dad?
No, I definitely said Dan. I 100% said Dan.
We're into shambles already. I wanted to talk about this week about the same story as you, Charlie, which is a burger that came from space. Colchester United.
Why was there a burger
I heard
in
about
space?
this,
There was Colchester United's training ground. It was actually towards the end of last week, but because we recorded slightly earlier, we missed it. A famous YouTuber had sent a burger in space. Coincidentally, it landed on Colchester's training ground.
Why?
And the groundsman was there in the afternoon. It'd been sent up in a something balloon, a technical term that I don't want to go on.
Yeah, it was trying to be like the first to send fast food up into space, but it was the unique part was the way it was powered, like some helium balloon or something like that.
But we're not focusing on him because we don't know anything about him. We're focusing on football, which is Colchester United.
Yeah.
The groundsman discovered it and proceeded with Colchester United's media man to go through a 3-hour Twitter thread of exactly what was happening, because eventually the YouTuber came to collect it, and there was a very big press hoorah.
And I believe he ate it at the training ground as well.
He did have a try of it, despite the fact it was frozen.
Yeah, it was frozen, wasn't it? It was, so they had to...
The burger was frozen. Oh yeah, because
it's going to space, isn't it?
So it was just a bit of an interesting one from the week. The only other thing I want to mention is that Ben Savage obviously knows food better than you two, because he has bought knickknacks with him.
Well, guys, in preparation for today's sort of podcast, I did listen to a few minutes of last week's, and knickknacks came up.
They were very important.
Yeah,
so
where was the mini cheddars?
You were basically outraged by them, weren't you?
So basically, what Ben's saying is, I'm the favourite of the three hosts. I talk the most sense in terms of crisps.
Well, hold on. The only reason I didn't get Pringles is because they're £2.50 in the shop down the road.
Well,
I will.
You've got to factor that in when you're rating a crisp. If they're out of the financial reach of most working class people,
Sensations are more.
Sensations are not more. They're a pound in your local shop.
They're overrated. But anyway, that's another discussion for another time.
What about you two? Have you had an interesting week?
No, I've been ill.
Okay.
I've had a cold.
As we mentioned last week, my school performed Finding Nemo this morning.
Oh, the theatre.
And just so you...
5-star review.
For those of you who were interested, there was 46 underwater and fish reference puns throughout the play. So anyone who guessed...
have you got any highlights from those 46?
You raised a very good point. It saved us because you said, what about if more than one person gets it right? And that happened. Luckily we bought 3 eggs, but 2 people did get the correct answer.
Did they?
But if you hadn't said that, I probably wouldn't have bought the other 2 eggs. So.
Well, you're welcome again for saving your job because you fail to prepare just like you do every week.
Fail to prepare, prepare to fail, Charlie. It's very simple. Ben, what about you?
Do you know what? Something smells very fishy about this.
There he is.
There's my pun.
47.
And now it's time for Ramble of the Week.
And we start with the big financial story of the week, which is agent fees. There was a report published a couple of days ago, might have been Wednesday night, which outlined all of the fees spent on agents from the Premier League all the way down to the lowest level where they were used in English football, which was a remarkable story in itself. But across the Premier League, which is something we don't often talk about, but we've got to talk about where that money goes, 260 million was spent on football agents in the 2018-19 financial year. So that goes from the 1st of February last year, includes the summer transfer window, and then the January window just gone. So that is an extortionate amount of money. Liverpool were by far the top team in there because they had some monstrous deals go through during that time. Virgil van Dijk and Alisson being the 2 main ones. But there were also a few surprises a bit further down the leagues. So one of those was Sunderland in League One. Obviously,
why are you seem so surprised with Sunderland?
Well, because as you claim to be, and I actually am a Luton Town fan, support my local club, not just when United aren't winning. Sunderland, the reason I wanted to talk about them, you would expect them to have the highest agent fees in that league, but they actually spent 2.8 million on agent fees, which was over half the amount spent by the entire league, and was more than 14 teams combined spent on actual transfers during the summer.
That's incredible, isn't it?
Well, Sunderland always had a big wage packet from the Premier League. Obviously, going down to the Championship and down to League One has not helped them at all.
So I guess the only bit out of the agent fees is we don't get to find out if they were from sales or transfers coming in, or with Sunderland, as you've highlighted, there were a few big names that were released from their contracts or had agreed mutual terminations. The Pappy Gillabodgies of the world. And are they the ones... Ben tickled you already. They're the sort of ones that we don't know. Are their agents getting a payoff for a
that's the
deal
thing
for them to go?
I don't know if it says in there, but with agents, because they can act on behalf of a club or on behalf of the player. So when they're saying 2.5 million, it'd be interesting to see how much of that is, like you say, outgoing, acting on behalf of the club, and how much is negotiating with an actual player who's maybe either a free agent or on loan or somewhere else.
When the club announces their losses.
I do think they get a bit of I'm not saying all agents. I think the problem is that the high profile ones have maybe given the more harder working ones lower down the leagues a bit of a bad rap. You've got this super agent, what's the one, the Portuguese fellow?
Oh, Jorge Mendes.
Yeah, him and that Mario, whatever his name
is.
Manola, that's the one, no, those sorts of lads, but like lower down the leagues, I was listening to that, do you remember the Barnsley forward, Brian Howard?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's an agent now, and he was on a different podcast I was listening to during the week. And lower down the league, it's a lot less money. It's not like they get like 10% of every deal. It's a lot of their work would be more loans, because obviously you're talking lower down the leagues, and actually their cut isn't. I'm not defending them, but I do think that these headlines don't help the large majority of agents who are probably doing a good job. And it's the small minority of maybe money grabbers who are ruining it for the rest of them.
A bit like the Premier League, they don't actually represent what happens across the...
No, exactly, no. And I think the role of the agent is probably not as understood as what I think. I was quite surprised listening to him talk, and it's only his version, he might be lying, but I don't think he has any reason to. That it was quite surprising what else they do. It's not just brokering deals, it's, in their next window, where are we going to go from there? It's about sorting out houses for them. It's so much more than just, right, here's club A, here's player A, let's make them meet, I'll take 10% of that, whatever it is. So, I don't know, I do think that there's a lot of people who are going to get a bit of a bad rap from this.
And talking about the other end, which is something we don't do too often, a few of the lower standouts, which were in League 2, lots of clubs spent normally 5-figure sums, but lowest of the lot, Macclesfield Town spent just £1,000 on agent fees, which I thought was quite strange.
Yeah, they've been quite...
Luton in League 1, by the way, only the 12th highest, which is very good for a side flying high at the top of the league. But non-league is where the big story was for me.
Yeah.
So,
this was really
for the first time, a Step 4 non-league club featured on this chart for agent fees.
I saw this.
And they weren't the lowest of the lot as well. So, the team in question is Frickley Athletic, who spent £900 on agent fees in Step 4 of non-league. So we're talking one tier above Crawley Club.
£900?
£900.
I don't know anyone at that level even has an agent.
I found out it was it was for 2 players, but they both had the same agent.
Yes, they did.
But how, look, with all due respect, and I mean this polite way possible, that's a league above what, you know, us lads are capable of playing. Why on earth do you need an agent? I don't know why you're looking like that, you know, being polite.
Maybe you guys.
No, but, you know, I mean, on a serious note, it's, you know, it is, well, people are paying, what, 5, maybe 8 or whatever it is, but, you know, most people are paying £5 to watch a game. How can you have an agent for that standard of football? That's baffling, that is. I honestly don't get that. Like,
I presume they had it must have been a loan deal from 2 players that.
why does that need to be
quite high up.
brokered? Surely at that level, if they're coming from a team in the conference, that wage must still be being paid by the conference club. Because a team at that level is not going to be able to cover the cost of a player in a national league team, surely.
It depends on how much
Baffling.
they're paying.
Anyway, carry on.
Yeah,
Sorry,
that's
baffling.
It's crazy.
The other standout of non-league is one I'm a bit worried to mention because Craig obviously accuses me of bias quite a lot.
You are.
But they are very much the standout number in non-league,
That's
which
surprised.
is Salford City, who have spent £76,000 on agent fees.
Yeah.
I have to be fair to them, only very slightly ahead of Chesterfield, although those 2 teams are more than double anyone else. And again with Chesterfield, it looks on the face of it that it's more getting big name players out or big wage packet players
Yeah.
out.
I would say, I think that Salford one, I'd love to know how much of that was that Adam Rooney deal, for example.
Yeah.
You know, was it $1.5 million he went for? So there's going to be some sort of cut from that, you know, from Aberdeen. So that's another one.
But we've got to the position where we're talking about step 3 and step 4 clubs. Quite a few step 3 clubs mentioned on there. Is that the way to spend money? Well, we're talking about grassroots facilities where sometimes the pitches aren't adequate. Changing room facilities we've talked about. I'd argue, as much as I disagree with the FA changing rooms policy that they're trying to implement about the 18 square feet or whatever it is, that's still a better spent of money than spending it on agents at that level.
Oh yeah, no, I completely agree at that level, definitely.
But do we think FIFA's upcoming review of agency fees will solve all this in terms of the amount of money being spent?
Absolutely not.
No, this is FIFA.
What will happen with the FIFA review is they will, a bit like their independent commission before, and the one we mentioned with the EFL a few weeks ago, they will employ the person who will tell them what they want to hear and they will implement the minimal changes that make everyone unhappy, like they did with the rule changes that Charlie's talked about.
Which I got one of them wrong, but anyway, that's a different thing. But no, I go on.
But again, the first story of the week for 10 minutes we've spent talking about things that happen off the pitch, which is rather unhappy. So can someone lighten the mood a little bit?
I can lighten the mood for you, but I'm going to hand over to my very good friend Mr. Ben Savage, who's going to do that for me. Go on.
Yes. Well, when I first got told that I was going to have the honour of being on this ramble this week.
Now you're taking the piss.
I got told to, come up with a story for you guys, elaborate on it, etc. So I have a story for you, and I'm going to leave England for a bit. I'm going to talk about, a league from Africa.
Charlie's favourite continent.
Yes. Well, no, can I just, before you go, I was banned from this. Craig actually banned me from talking about stories in Africa unless he said they were enriching. So
Enriching?
I hope
He has never said that word in his life.
No, I paraphrased him, but yeah, go on then, Ben. What have you
That's
got?
right. Well, you guys know I'm a passionate fan and keen follower of the Moroccan Premier League.
It's one of your favourite leagues.
Never heard
Absolutely, which incidentally is called the Balata. Now, I just want to share an incident which happened earlier this week in a game between Youssoufa Berikid and Mullah Uja.
How many practices did you try that?
verify those pronunciations.
I will
It's in
verify
the
it.
Savage team, go on.
Yeah. If I pronounce them wrong, please announce it in the comments. Anyway,
He's a
No,
pro.
He's done this before.
He knows.
We've upgraded the Savage.
and just incidentally, before you start quizzing on this, Wired Casablanca are my team. They're currently 18 points clear, although second place Raja Casablanca.
Why did you choose the team that happened to be 18 points clear out of interest?
Because-
I can't imagine you have any affinity to Casablanca.
I'll tell you why exactly.
Unless you
Because
like
one
the
of my most respected, one of the managers I respect most is John Toshak,
Right.
and he was the manager for 2 years, but got sacked last year.
Still
Put me in my place, I'll give you that. No,
So
that's
there you
fine,
go.
Fair enough.
Anyway, they're 18 points clear, but their city rivals Raja Casablanca have got 3 games in hand. So we will wait and see. Anyway, going back to the 2 teams in question I mentioned. Now, to give a bit of background, these 2 teams got promoted from the Championship version of the Moroccan Premier League. Ironically called Balota 2. And they're both currently only 3 points off a place in next season's African Champions League.
Right.
So they're having a great season, the pair of them. And as there are only 8 games left, this match on Tuesday is quite a big one. Now, Berikid opened the scoring through Mohamed El Faki.
Right, go on.
You've got Charlie on the ropes. He can't do an African story.
No,
After
you've tucked me up there, go on.
He and his teammates were so delighted with scoring the goal that they ran to the touchline to take a team selfie and upload it to Instagram.
Oh, fuck off.
A la a certain
They
super.
learn from Balotelli.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Now they obviously saw Mario Balotelli do this a few weeks ago, and they wanted to, have some of that. Unfortunately, their dugout at the time was in the half they're defending, so they all ran to the dugout to take their selfie. And as soon as the last man crossed the line, the opposition kicked off.
Oh no!
Oh god.
Now, as soon as they realised this, they started sprinting towards the other goal. One defender made it. Do you know what happened? He's hacked him down, gave away a penalty.
Oh, fucking, that's not you, that is!
The Craig Savage retro game specialist.
You've got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You have to take
Instantly, they
the
scored it, and the game finished 1-1.
Oh, so it's cost them the game.
It's cost them the game.
Well, I'm sorry, they deserve that for
That's
being
what you get.
pompous enough to
Stupid
fucking...
social media celebration.
And do you know what
It's
the worst
selfie.
thing about this, the mobile didn't even work. It wasn't uploaded to Instagram.
Oh,
service.
That is justice, that's what that is.
There you
Fucking
go.
celebrate.
We've seen
Why have
it.
you got a phone in a fucking dugout anyway? Ridiculous,
This
honestly.
is
Check the scores.
Check the score.
I've got to say, that is the best African story we've ever had.
That's
you go.
literally the best one we've ever had.
And if you want
We've had
Moroccan
6
correspondent, guys, I'm your man. But there you go.
The African Chronicle.
That is my ramble.
Speaking of like big fixtures, Chertsey Town in the Combined Counties League
Yes.
have made it through to the FA Vars final, which we're going to go to at Wembley.
We all have tickets again.
We all have tickets.
But when we all turn up.
It's a mystery child.
We will do this time.
Ah.
I've actually paid for them, so I better...
I will not be there.
That won't be there. It's a
I
guarantee.
doubt Charlie will either.
No, I will
Charlie's got
be.
previous.
No, I'll put it in the diary. Right, go on.
However, obviously, congratulations to them to get into the final. However, they've got 10 outside of recording 10 league games to fit in this month. So they're playing on the 6th, the 9th, the 13th, the 16th, the 18th, the 20th, the 22nd, the 24th, the 27th, and the 30th.
They really don't reward clubs
There was a
for...
spell of 7 games in 13 days, wasn't there? It was ridiculous. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, Tuesday,
So,
Thursday,
so
Saturday.
all that reward for making
Well,
it
it-
Wembley
it's a bit-
it seems. But however, they are actually a couple of points off top. And he lost one league game all season, so hopefully they'll probably get.
Did they have a lot of postponements during the winter?
No, they just keep getting through into the
'Cause they're going through the trophy.
Oh, okay.
FA Vars.
For the Vars, they only
Vars
prepare
takes
for the first 2 or 3
priority.
levels, sure.
So now it's just obviously it might. Well, I say they'll cost. I don't think they'll cost. I think they're going to win the league.
I know on a slightly smaller scale it happened with Sunderland getting to the Checkatrade Trophy final because they've got 8 games this month, whereas Barnsley and Luton have only got 4 or 5 in League One. But at that level, that's crippling when you're talking semi-pro and amateur players.
The same thing with North East Victoria last season. They still had to fit half a season in like from middle of March. To
That one was largely due to weather, though. I know they had 1 cup run, but I think most of that was weather. But when it's down to cup run, you've got to think there's going to be weeks in the middle of there where the 2 teams could have played, and even if it means juggling another fixture, which I know is a controversial topic with Craig, but even if it means juggling another fixture, we'll get onto that one day in the future.
They break rules, people. They break rules.
But in terms of juggling other fixtures, sometimes you've got to use a bit of common sense, and it's the one thing we say at local and regional FAs doesn't get applied enough.
But the problem is for them is when you say well, like fit in like midweek fixtures start of the season, but the problem is FA Vars happens at exactly the same time, so it doesn't balance it out.
But the FA Vars, with the greatest respect, it isn't every week, is it? There's 2 or 3 weeks in the middle.
But sometimes, depending on the fixture, it could go over extra time and a replay.
Yeah.
Then obviously you have to fit it in.
Well, yeah, then maybe
2
you go
days,
down a
and then
road.
that fixture might happen.
I think
when it gets moved over.
League's a bit more common sense.
You've actually hit the nail on the head of something that really annoys me. Is we've talked recently about the FA Cup taking away replays in the later stages to protect the Premier League teams who are in Europe and things like that, although it didn't actually affect any of them this year. The biggest problem at the lower levels is the Vars and the Trophy, they have replays all the way through. And there's no financial benefit for most teams in that because the prize money's negligible, and you're not going to get a 8,000 gate unless you're going away to Leyton Orient in the trophy, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
And when you're in situations like that, all you're doing is basically hindering the playing staff and getting to the stage where you have this build-up of fixtures. Any cup tie, I'm sure most non-league clubs will say, I know we can have a replay at our place, but set it in 120 minutes and let us play the league season.
The problem is when you get a team like Premier League that they'll say, "Oh, we've got fit these sort of fixtures in." By saying, "Oh, players won't be fit enough," but ultimately you've got non-league players who have to do their day jobs.
They're not fit before the first
I
game.
know, I totally agree with you on that one. However, their argument is, I'm paying that fella 120 grand a week. I need the best of him that I'm going to get. Whereas I'm paying him 120 pound a week. They're a little easy to come by, aren't they? Do you know, I agree with what you're saying, but that'll be their argument as to why they don't want the replays because it's an investment, isn't it, at that level?
The only other thing at that level is a lot of teams in step 3 and 4 in particular choose to stay in county cup competitions. And the idea of it is they play their backup players and get the squad players' fitness. But obviously, we've all been, or you two guys in particular, have been at that level as players and coaches. It doesn't always work out that way.
No.
You quite often end up where you're pulling players from your reserve teams, or if they're official reserve teams, or just you're sending an 11. You end up pulling a lot of players away for a first team fixture because you've got injuries, people with work commitment to that level, and you've just got to think a bit more carefully. Is it really worth it to try and win a county cup that we're miles above the standard of anyway?
Well, do you remember we had that earlier on in the year with Aldershot? I know it wasn't a county cup, but that problem of obviously not wanting to play a strong 11 against Bedford Town, I think.
Because they only had 10 first team fit players and they didn't want to risk them in that, so then they played them in that.
So you'd like to think they could be somewhere around it, but yeah. Did you want to read? I know it's not about football again in the sense it's about football club, but Bolton in I don't know loads about.
It's just a group of clubs with financial trouble, isn't it?
I don't know. I imagine you two know a bit more, but they had a licence revoked or something for their safety certificate because they didn't have enough staff to run a football match. Is that right? Like
they couldn't prove that they could have the stewarding staffing ratio. Because you've got to have a certain amount of stewards per this many fans, and they couldn't prove they could.
How does a club in the second tier of English football get into that? Not obviously, I know how, but to be that cash strapped, you can't even pay stewards.
Obviously, unfortunately for Bolton, it started with a really unfortunate incident, which was a death for chairman and things like that. But since then, again, it just proves how hard it is to get people to take over at the administrative levels of football clubs now. I've got one later on from non-league, but here at step 2, even at step 2 of the English football pyramid, the Championship, people won't come in.
No.
And the ones who have come in have not quite been adequate, unfortunately.
But then you moan about the EFL, and with the fit and proper tests, obviously...
They're not
every week! It doesn't work!
It doesn't work, I'll give you that. But the point is, when people come over, it's very easy for businessmen to come in and do a sales pitch. It's much harder for them to replicate. And you've got to be fair to the EFL at some point and say, there are plenty of people in other walks of life in the world who have been done by a sales pitch. And if a chairman comes in, or a prospective chairman comes in and gives the best pitch in the world, I'm going to do this, this, this and this, proves they've got money in their account at the time.
Especially with cash strapped, I suppose. But I just think that obviously we've had issues with clubs, being financially, but to not have enough to even pay some stewards, and I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way, but that's hardly the
minimum wage, isn't it?
Yeah,
we've talked about it in terms of the security thing.
To have that is just baffling, to be honest.
And then came the news just before we recorded that they again might not go ahead now with Ipswich because of a critical failure to the IT system. So.
Which IT system
Which
is it?
is the IT system? All they've got to do is just turn it off and turn it back on again.
It solves 80% of the problems. I can vouch for that.
I mean, they could just upgrade to Windows 10.
I think it's just an upgrade problem.
Yeah. They haven't done the updates for a few weeks, and it's just all got behind. It's a tough state.
It's 95. Windows 95.
There was another one actually down in non-league related to this, which was the National League, Ebbsfleet United.
Yes.
Before the game, remarkably last week, their players refused to come out for the warm-up over a dispute with the chairman.
Yes.
And it was a big game in relation to securing their playoff place. I think it was 7th v Wrexham. They were 7th in the last playoff spot. They were playing against Wrexham, who were obviously challenging for the title and a couple of places above. Their players wouldn't come out for the warm-up. They ended up in a standoff in the changing room. Hang on.
Fuck's sake.
They ended up in a standoff in the changing room with the chairman and forced him to sign a documented contract.
Wow.
To meet their demands. And then after that, they came out for the warm-up. Went on as usual, won the game 4-1.
Really?
So there's this
They were
brilliant
3
shot.
up in the first half.
There's this brilliant shot about 45 minutes before the game. The Wrexham players warming up the other side of the pitch, and the other one just empty with a groundsman putting a fork in.
I have heard that because that actually happened at Bedford Town. I can't remember if it was the beginning of this season or towards the end of last season.
Last season.
But they went down to Fleet or somewhere and then didn't come out to play the games out of protest. I mean, from Bedford to Fleet, I mean, that's down on the south coast, isn't it? You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's not the first time that sort of thing's happened. However, they didn't go out.
That's a much higher level for it to happen.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't go out and win 4-1 either. So, and the only other one around that area was obviously Gateshead. I think that from the very small notes I've got, players refuse to play until the club is sold.
They refused to play because they hadn't been paid. Today they have officially been paid for March. All senior players was the statement.
Right.
So what's going to happen with the youth team? We mentioned with Nuneaton where the youth team had to be disbanded.
Yeah, because the bit I've got is
they want the chairman and some other guy to resign.
Yeah.
The thing is that I've got here is not just so staff haven't been paid. So I don't know if that was part of the players who've probably got the most power in the club to not just get themselves paid, but obviously other members of the club. You know,
but all it says was all senior players.
Yeah,
paid,
so there's still been a lot of people out of pocket.
And we did mention a few months ago when Steve Watson left them for York when they were challenging for the playoffs. What on earth's he doing?
Yeah,
you can see what
it suddenly makes a lot of sense.
But then again, with York, it's still They still got.
but they're a big club at that
not,
level.
and not in
They're
that
not
state.
doing well though.
Yeah, but he'll get the summer to rebuild and
New stadium,
I'm probably financially a bit better off than Gateshead by the sound of it. So,
Hopefully.
but yeah, do you want a quick funny story?
Well, we could do with some lightening up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we-
I
we-
don't know.
we-
You might have come across this, but forgive my pronunciation. Ignazio Barbelio.
I think he's just passed it to Ben.
Yeah, no. So a 55-year-old amateur footballer who is a well-known sort of practical joker, playing in Sicily. Rather than he's playing his last ever game of football, he'd been sort of in the lower leagues of Italy and then ended up at that age, obviously playing amateur football. He rather than having like John Terry for example, where they get clapped off the pitch and all of that, he actually I can't believe I'm saying this. He staged his own kidnapping in the middle of the game.
I saw it.
So
I saw it.
this is true. Honestly, he could go online and look at it. He arranged for a helicopter to land in the middle of the pitch, dust everywhere, like literally all over the place. He was playing for. They were playing against the Brody, and he was playing for Via Grande, which I think just means big road or something, doesn't it, in Italian? But anyway, but yeah, so he, a helicopter lands on the pitch, kidnaps him, goes off, and that was his sender. But it was all staged by him and friends and the club. But the fallout of that
this
is
is
the club have now been banned from playing any matches for the next 2 months because of the disruption, obviously, the
for
breaking of
God's
rules,
sake.
and they were fined €200.
They should have just subbed him.
Well, that's the thing. That was what everyone was. But he's quite a well-known practical joker. It was just in the middle of the game, masked people coming down, camo gear in a helicopter, like zip line down, grab him and then fly off.
We
Incredible.
often criticise leagues for fines and things like that, but I can understand the concern in the stadium for incidents like that happening,
safety-wise,
whether they're
wasn't
staged or not.
Health and safety wise would not have been.
I'll go for a more negative one. I've got a nice follow-up. I've got a nice one after that. So, quick follow-up from last week. We spoke about Glentoran and their manager not being eligible for European leagues, etc.
Because of his qualifications.
Basically, they sacked him and then hired him as a coach instead. So they brought in someone with Paul Miller as a man with the licence. Sorry.
So he's officially going to be listed as the manager.
Yeah.
But what I want to know is he actually going to be the manager, or is he just going to sit in the background with the title?
It would appear that he is because he's now brought in his own assistant.
No, I don't like that.
So this fella who was in charge, who won, I think at the time last week, won 5 out of the previous 8 games, and given that Glentoran was quite a big club and they were just floundering, it was an impressive sort of run.
Yeah.
He's now just been listed, rehired, as a coach. Inverted commas, what the future of that's going to be, and this is all based on the fact that they're probably going to finish in 7th place, and the likelihood of them getting through the European playoffs is
Then
entirely.
why didn't they just
slim.
cross that picture when they came to it?
Well, that's the thing, yeah. So it's a bit of a mess,
shocking.
really. So yeah, it's a bit pants. However, going on to a slightly more positive one, Peterborough United have sold the naming rights to their stadium. I don't know if you saw this.
Is this positive?
Yeah, it is positive because there's some funny ones off the back of it.
I
so
thought there were.
yeah, it's a 10-year deal worth £2 million, and it's now going to be called the Western Homes Stadium.
That's the same thing with
Colchester.
So yeah, but which just led me on to a bit of a wormhole of other stadiums that have been sponsored by quite humorous.
This is like this transfer thing.
So I don't have the names of all of the teams because quite a few of them are in America, as you would imagine, and they're lower league. But anyway, you've got the Hunky Dory's Park in Drogheda, which obviously in the Irish League. Gay Meadow, Shrewsbury, which isn't called that. Some of these are slightly dated, but these are stadiums who have been sponsored by other things. The cheaper Insurance Direct Stadium in Dumbarton. The Middelfart Stadium in Denmark, in the town of Middelfart, and the team is called Middelfart FC. So
I don't understand why it's funny.
It's called Middelfart FC. Dick's Sporting Goods Park in Colorado.
You can see why that one's funny.
The Arnold Schwarzenegger Stadium in Graz, which obviously of Austrian.
Yeah, I was going to say this is.
One in lower league, the Dripping Pan. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh no, I've heard of that.
Lose or however you pronounce it.
Lose. Yeah, lovely ground. Lovely old ground.
It's not anymore, but it used to be called the Kit Kat Crescent. Obviously, York City.
Yeah.
This is my favourite one. This is Young Boys of Bern. Do you know the name of their stadium? Wankdorf. Wankdorf.
Well, you made yourself look immature, haven't
The Wankdorf Stadium, which I think is just like a brilliant.
Why do you keep saying it?
It's just a funny name, isn't it? Wankdorf. Right. Obviously, in Scotland, it's still called that the Tony Macaroni Arena, which is Livingston.
I miss the old McCain Stadium.
There's one in Indianapolis. I'll let you Google it. It begins with a K, but it sounds like a naughty word. You then had Northwich, Victoria, who used to be the Bargain Booze Stadium. This one in the Netherlands, in Almere in the Netherlands, makes it laugh. The Mitsubishi Forklift Stadium.
It's very precise. It could have just been
I didn't know
Mitsubishi.
Mitsubishi done for.
No, there you go.
No.
Well, maybe they wanted to get the word out.
In Nuremberg, you've got the Easy Credit Stadium, which I believe actually FC Nuremberg play out. The Jobbing.com Arena in Arizona, USA. Whataburger Field in Texas.
Brilliant.
That's the best one.
That's the
The Cash Point Arena in Altach in Austria. The Quicken Loans Arena in Cleveland. And this one is quite amusing as well, in Kobe in Japan. The Hotomoto Field.
So all the ones you've said would be amusing weren't amusing.
No, Wankdorf is a good stadium, sorry. That's a good... yeah.
Losing
yeah.
for the
I prefer Whataburger.
But yeah, that's...
Craig, would you like to
So
move on
from
to
Wankdorf-
Adel Taarabt?
No, I wasn't actually. I was going to move. I'll get to him later. But I'm going to go from Wankdorf to an absolute wanker. Alfredo Morelos.
Oh, for
no.
goodness sake,
Hang on, stop. These are the views of Craig Savage. The rest of us are
No,
completely neutral between
I was just
Celtic.
going
No,
to
it's
the
not
game. I just want to give your opinion on 5 red cards.
Well, you call him
now.
a wanker. It's not really, I just want your opinion, is it?
No, not on that bit. Not on that bit. But as a coach, if you was Steven Gerrard now, 5 red cards in the same season, what would you do with Alfredo Morelos?
I think the thing is they're always going to sell him. I think the problem they've got now is he's now probably just dropped about 5 or 6 million off of his price tag, at least.
Purely because of his reputation. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to take him now, are they, after 5
And that's
well, no,
in
no
big
one's
games.
going to
It's
take him.
costing them in big games.
Well, they reckon he could have gone for around, which I think is ludicrous, because he's an okay player, but they reckon in the January transfer window they had offers around 15 million, which they didn't take.
I heard it was
which
higher.
is crazy. Well, yeah, but you won't even get that from him now. Not with the amount of that rep.
The problem with him is that he's either missed big games or made mistakes in big games. So it's all good in that league, as you've said before.
Yeah.
There are a bunch of 4 or 5 at the bottom of the league, which Rangers and Celtic will beat 99 times out of 100 with ease. But he missed the League Cup semi-final that they lost to Aberdeen because he was suspended.
Yeah.
And as a result of that, Umar Sadiq played up front in one of the worst displays I've ever seen by a footballing striker. And one of the worst dives I've ever seen in that game as well, for which he also got booked. But unfortunately, he's left the club now. But obviously, this one, the highest profile game in Scottish football, and it's just...
Yeah.
Let's go on to that game. Obviously, he got sent off from an elbow from Scott Brown.
Yeah,
Now,
but-
Scott Brown, he's got sent 3 people off now, just from one game.
Yeah, but I don't... what's he done wrong?
So, that's what I was just about to say. Like,
He's
now
been
it's
given a
game
ban.
time. He's been given a ban.
Yeah, his was for inciting. I think their issue was there was 60. I think there was like 54,000 Celtic fans in there, and he happened to run over to the 700 Rangers fans, whatever it was, and started. You know, 2-game banners. I think is ridiculous.
I think with all the trouble you can get between the fans of that game and the fact that he's a Celtic captain, yes, passion's running high. Of course, you're glad to win, but as captain, he should be leading by example.
Yeah.
But would you say
and doing a lot better.
that's gamesmanship? With he's wound them up and
Oh,
they've lost.
I
the game?
don't think he has done
Is
anything
that-
wrong. And
is that-
I think that the foolishness of obviously Morelos and that Kent fella who got done, and that thing didn't Halliday get sent off
yes.
afterwards. The foolishness of them, because everyone knows the reputation of Scott Brown. When you go on the pitch, you know, and he's a good player.
He can't do anything.
Exactly, and that's the thing. I've got no sympathy for him.
While I agree with Ben's statement, one, it's not a 2-game ban for me, and secondly, although he may have done something to incite Rangers fans in terms of his behaviour generally, he didn't do as much to incite anger in the Rangers fans as Morelos getting sent off, Ryan Kent now getting a ban, and Andy Halliday getting sent off after the final whistle, which means that they're going to be 3 players down for the next game.
Ironically, I think if
And a manager as well. Steven Gerrard's got a ban now.
Clearly Celtic are a much better team. However, Rangers' display as the game went on got better, and actually I think if they channeled as much energy into sticking to some sort of game plan and playing that than what they do either going at the referee or making comments about this or getting involved in scuffles over this, that and the other, diving, etc. I just feel like it's a club that has potential, but I don't know, is that Gerrard's fault? I don't know.
It's a shame because on that occasion you looked at lineups and thought Rangers could possibly compete with football in
especially when Boyd went off.
When it's 10v10, Rangers were probably the better side. But
Gerrard doesn't have the best disciplinary record in the Merseyside derby
No,
himself as a player.
who was it? He come on and got sent off in a minute.
He's
United or something like that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't surprise you in that sense.
But it's just sometimes you can roll the players up a bit too much.
It's a shame because unfortunately there was parts of that game that were brilliant to watch, and that's been overshadowed by again stupidity and just downright naivety from young footballers who have got to know better than if someone's going to clip your heels, you've got to be better than
That's
that.
on both teams at times.
Oh yeah, agreed. Yeah. What I mean is that all Scott Brown did was clip his heels. You've got to be better than that to
I
look
guess
past
the
that.
most important thing is for most English fans, the Old Firm game is the only Scottish game most of them will watch.
Yeah.
And unless that game's amazing, they won't watch other games. That's a fair point, isn't it?
No, I agree. No, I totally agree.
In that game, rather than seeing 2 sides that probably have one of their best sides they've had in a couple of years, I know they've missed the odds key player, but they still had 2 very strong teams, which Rangers haven't been at that competitive level because of the relegations and coming back. That could have been a chance for them to really say, here's an advert for Scottish football. And unfortunately, again, at the end of the weekend, we're talking about the same things.
Yeah.
And then we had again off pitch incidents in midweek with Celtic, unfortunately,
Well,
which is a shame.
That's what I was going to say. I think, unfortunately, that would have been like. I think you're spot on when you said it would have been a great advert for League, considering what. I mean, forgetting this week, but what has even happened before that? People running on the pitch, all this sort of stuff. If they'd have just got through that game and it had just been a very good game of football, you know,
Which it was.
Yeah.
A game of football.
and that's all people talk about. I think that would have done the reputation of Scottish football the world of good, because, like you said, that is the most high-profile game. But now,
But
the
again, all
game
week,
we're talking
no
about.
one's talking about the football. Are they?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. FA Cup semi-final this weekend.
Yeah.
VAR, your favourite thing, Dan. I might be slightly misquoted on this. Did you want to go with it, or are you about to say
Well,
something?
no.
From what I gather, they're going to put the video on the
they're gonna show it
screen.
instantly,
But
yeah.
is this after the decision has been made?
No,
Is that
they're going
right?
to show it during of what.
They're
So
going-
the fans will be seeing what the
VAR
referee
officials
and
are
the
saying.
VAR
Right.
will be seeing as well.
I think
Okay.
that's very similar to what they do in rugby, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But is that a good thing? Or bad? I don't know.
It's a
It's a good thing. I think
Very,
it's a
very
good
good
thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Because people in the stadium need to know what the hell's going on. They can't, like, for example, the Champions League with Man United,
Yeah.
the penalty. No one in the stadium, everyone knew was the referee's going to have a look at it,
Or
but no one knew what is going on. It could be a potential handball. Like, really, handball.
just to play devil's advocate slightly though, is it going to then pile like 90,000 people on the back of a referee?
No.
You know, if he's clearly made some cataclysmic error. or
But to
anything
be
like that.
honest,
If people- everyone can see it.
What view of the
You
screen are you
get
going
that.
to get realistically?
Yeah, I suppose.
It's just to show the thought process they're going through and the angles they're getting.
Yeah.
One of the best things it does is add to the atmosphere, because I'm a big cricket fan, as you know.
Yeah.
And in
You
the
mentioned that
IPL,
before.
which is currently starting, and we'll be talking about extensively next week, the IPL, where the players out and they have one review per innings, and you see it in Test cricket as well. And then when you've got the LBW shout and you're seeing the ball tracking, the stadium erupts if it's a reverse of a decision.
Yeah.
It's a
I want
genuinely,
that atmosphere though.
genuinely,
You
it's
want that
amazing,
atmosphere.
and it just adds to the atmosphere. It makes it a more enjoyable experience, and more importantly, it brings fans a bit more of a connection because you can see what's going on and you're part of it. I can't see any negatives
Yeah.
to it.
Weirdly with VAR, it's not going to be used for the playoffs, Championship player final.
Which is a crazy decision in
Weird
itself.
thing. That's a lot of money riding on that.
And again, all it's done, because it's now been talked about and rejected, it's going to lead to more sort of outrage at the refereeing decisions and more pressure on the referee, because he's now got no help in a £100 million game, even though the help's there and available.
But then again, like, well, if you can say let's have VAR in the Premier League, which probably will happen next season, then Championship we go on it. Now we've got goal line technology. Let's have VAR.
But I guess
But not every ground suitable.
that's what I was going to say.
VAR. Or maybe goal line technology. You don't know. Like for example, let's see. Alright, say for example, Luton 2 go up. Their ground's not going to like work.
Not going to be ideal for VAR.
No, there's a lot of pillars in the way.
Yeah, but that's the case at a lot of grounds, unfortunately, and it's something that will be overcome eventually, because at that level of the game, money talks. What is a bit of a shame is that almost all of the things we've mentioned tonight, whether it be agent fees, technology, all of those could be money better spent in non-league, saving clubs that are getting wound up for $3 or $4 or $5 a year, which is ridiculous.
Just last sort of positive one for me to finish on. I don't know if you saw that High Street Chemist Boots is now going to sponsor the women's home nations and
Yes, I did
Ireland.
see this. Yeah.
Because we had Barclays for the Super
Yeah,
League
so it was
a couple
off the back of that. So I think
What's
that's something
the
we'd
name of the
spoken about. So sorry,
What's the name of the sponsor?
Boots.
Oh, Boots.
Boots,
Oh,
as
sorry.
in like the
Sorry.
chemist. It doesn't really give much. It just says a multi-million-pound deal for the next 3 years, which then covers the World Cup in France this year and the 2021 Championships.
That's really good.
So I think it's good, and like we say, just hopefully off the back of that, there's more of an uptake, which obviously I think women's football's on the up anyway. But that it filters down where it should do.
I think it's come such a long way in the last few years. Women's football.
Oh yeah,
And
100%.
The only positive thing about it is that the quality of it will go up as well due to the money involved. So it's fantastic. Right, so guys, do you know the significance of the numbers 13 and 512?
Nothing's started like that before.
If you've not heard from previous rambles, Charlie's not very good at maths.
That's right, you don't have to divide anything around.
Despite being a top set maths teacher.
Yeah.
I worry for our children. Anyway, 13 is the number of Dagenham Redbridge fans who made the 512-mile round trip to watch their team play AFC Flyde on Tuesday.
Can I just say,
You were doing so well.
I think you said Flyde.
you've done more.
Typo.
You've done more accurate non-league research and debating than I have done. You've done that in one episode more than what I've done in nearly a year. So I've got to say, hats off to you.
Charlie made us scrap the non-league feature.
So just to be clear, it's AFC
Filed.
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 So why do you spell it like that?
That's how you spell it.
Weirdos. Anyway.
That's
As the
views
views
of
of our guests. Not
Anyway, apologies to the people of File. Anyway, sorry, 13.
13 people.
Can we just read that?
No, well, I can't.
Anyway, 13 Dagenham Redford fans made the 512-mile round trip. Now, they're not having the best of seasons, as you know.
No, Tim Howard. Tim Howard,
They're
legend.
2 spots above the relegation zone, sorry.
Which is a shame because I like them to go down.
Yeah, so, fair play to those 13 people turning up. But the opposition, I'm not going to say the name now, the opposition made them feel...
Sorry, Rami, who were they playing
He
again?
gets the Moroccan names right.
Yeah, you can pronounce it. Casablanca, whatever.
Lily! Anyway, the stadium announcer wanted to recognise this fact, so he got the names of each third of the 13 fans and gave them a shout out.
Oh, that's very nice of them. What a nice guy.
I did try to find their names ahead of this podcast today, but it's slightly impossible. So
You've done enough research there, mate. Don't worry about that.
So if you guys are listening, fair play to you. Instantly, the game finished 1-1.
Oh, okay.
Another draw. See,
Good point.
we mentioned this before. Braintree, obviously the first team to be relegated from the National League, despite sitting in 23rd place.
Go on. Mason got games names.
Yeah, they do.
That's not
But only
Be with us,
one. But I think they'll go down this weekend.
That's unfortunate. But they beat Premier League sides, so that's all they can ask for.
That is true.
Do you want to talk about Adil Tarat
I
now,
might
Craig?
talk about Adel Tarat because he signed for Benfica 4 years ago.
He did.
And last weekend was his first game for him. It's been
In 4 years?
1,357 days after joining the club.
What's he been out on loan everywhere? Or?
I think so. He's always been out of shape. And
He's been on loan to some weird things.
He had
Yeah.
18 months on loan in Italy and 7 months in the reserves, which Benfica 2 playing like the 2nd or 3rd division.
Oh,
Big
okay,
nothing
yeah.
space.
7 months in. Is that where he famously took that corner where he kicks the corner flag or something?
I cannot
I don't
verify
know.
that.
There's definitely go on YouTube. There's definitely where he tries to take a corner and he kicks the corner flag and he goes out for a goal kick. I'm sure that was.
But quite interestingly, the Benfica coach said this year he's been training really well and with good intensity, which goes against what every other manager has said about him.
What was it? Harry Redknapp famously said that if he find a
Freestyle
player,
overweight.
well, no, he said he find
before he
anyone.
turns up.
No, he find anyone in the QPR team who passed it to him in their own half.
Yeah.
Really?
Apparently, that's how the legend.
Is that Redknapp
goes.
or Warnock?
No,
I might be Warnock. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry. That's how the legend goes. That he find anyone who passed it to him in their own half. So
So
yeah.
Warnock was the only manager who was probably successful under,
Yeah,
so
I've got to say,
that's
yeah.
prove it worked for him.
I just want to do a shout out to Harefield United in the Spartan Sub-Mid in Division 1. Now, hear me out, Charlie. Hear me out.
And we did shout outs.
Yeah,
I didn't know we had enough people to do shout outs for, but anyway.
Well,
Big up my team.
No, whatever his name. But they're currently unbeaten in the league so far this season. Played 33, won 31 of them, which obviously got promoted now as champions. But do you know who's the joint manager for Harefield United?
Joint manager's a bad start, but go on, no, I don't know.
Havant and Waterlooville.
Hey!
Field.
Having a Waterlooville legend, yes.
Yeah. Richie Paquette, who's the guy that scored against Liverpool
Yes.
in 2008. So
Yes.
massive congratulations to them. They'll be playing in step 5.
One other story I've got, is from Street FC, who are currently playing in Southern Premier or Southern Division 1. They're in Step 4. They are opting voluntarily to take a demotion in League next season. And the reason they've cited is not financial, which is normally the reason at this level of football. It is because they haven't been able to recruit enough volunteers to cover the essential roles at the club.
Right.
Which
Okay.
I think leads into quite an interesting debate, because we've mentioned a lot of times before about the pressures on administrative staff. One you've mentioned before about club secretaries and coaches combining into one. And then we've talked about instances in terms of admin errors. We've looked at Gestify and the fees that can come up for making mistakes on, say, a team sheet. And obviously with that pressure, if you're a full-time worker, you've got a stressful job during the week. The fact that that's leading to clubs taking optional demotions, or more importantly, clubs not being able to get people to fulfil a role within a club.
Yeah, didn't we have a similar discussion about this? Was it St. Neots or someone like
Yeah,
that who
St.
did a
Neots was
similar
gonna say,
thing,
yeah.
who they couldn't afford to keep going at the league they're at the minute?
But that's what I thought the difference with this one was. Said financially, the budget isn't a problem.
Yeah.
It's the fact we can't actually get people who want to come into a club to do the secretarial side. Is it because of the pressures? Is it because of the potential fines? Is it because, of
sometimes
the win
find-
at all cost environment in non-league football?
Well, I think sometimes you find it if it's the history of the club. If it's a well-established club within the community, been there for a few generations, it's a lot easier because people have grown up with it. I think if you try and start a new club, and I think we should be encouraging it, I'm not against that, but that
Well,
probably
we're going to
makes
need it at the rate clubs are
Well,
declining,
yeah, exactly.
aren't
Yeah, I just think it makes it a bit more difficult to do that. But yeah, I think it's any club who's having to voluntarily relegate themselves is
It's not
bad.
nice.
It's bad news for football. Whether it's high up in the chain.
It's
or
not
as
good
low
for
as
the
this.
football pyramid.
No, definitely not.
One bit of good news. You know, we spoke before about Barton Rovers and the changing debacle.
Yeah.
They passed their ground grading.
Yeah, but what did they have to do?
They took up the urinal. That will be enough space for.
They were half a foot short, weren't they?
The away changing room had to be 18 square feet, so the only way they could do that was to knock out the wall for the urinal, take the urinal out and make it just a standard bit of room. So the away dressing room now meets FA regulations, but doesn't have a toilet.
No. The irony was, they to improve the facilities, they actually had to make them worse. That's think about it. If you're removing a toilet, ridiculous, absolutely absurd.
Oh, what a strike, Camero! An unbelievable strike from the Frenchman.
Okay, it is now my favourite part of the show, and even more so today because we have a sibling rivalry. It is unofficially sponsored by Noé Pamero. Name the matchday squad. So, Ben, just to clarify, because you're new to this, what's going to happen is I'm going to give you and Craig a game from the world of football history. Okay, all I want you to do is tell me anyone who played in that game either as a starting member or came off the bench as a substitute.
It's similar to the Luton Liverpool one you had the other day.
Yes, exactly the same as that. So, the rules to it are, though, it's sudden death, obviously,
Sudden death.
which Craig found out quite early on. And you must give me the full name of the player. I can't accept just last names,
Not surname.
unless they had, one name, which is not going to happen in this case.
So one thing we need to clear up is that 8 weeks ago we started having some tense music in the background.
And there'll be
Now,
more tense music.
based on the way that's affected my form, some people may think that's playing in the room while we're doing it, but let me assure you, it's not. So as I've lost 8 in a row since the music started, Ben Savage is going to be my representative for today's.
I feel like this is. I feel like the Undertaker, and my streak is going to go.
No, I think what's happened is it's
I feel like that's
basically-
arrogant.
Dan's been injured. We've got a man in on loan to cover, the gap that Dan's left.
Is his
while
name
he's-
on the team sheet?
His name is on the team sheet. No.
I'll probably register.
So,
Probably not. Some clubs.
I'm going to name the game and then we'll let Craig go first just so you get the idea. You can choose any player from either of the teams, okay? Given that it's FA Cup semi-final weekend and you're a Man United fan and you're an Arsenal fan, we're going to go back to 1999. The replay,
Okay.
Arsenal versus Manchester United on the 14th of April 1999. You will well remember, and I won't name the score, but there was a famous goal
You nicked it last
in which,
time.
obviously, Man United won 2-1 in the replay at Villa Park.
Can I just say, no pressure, Ben, but you better fucking win.
So, obviously, there's the last semi-final replay ever. The FA Cup.
Was it?
Yeah,
At
it
Villa
was.
Park?
At Villa
Great
Park.
stat.
Yeah, Villa Park. What? See, I missed FA Cup semi-final at Villa Park. Anyway, Charlie, cue the music.
So, Craig, your first guess for this game is?
So, I'm going to go for the guy that won the game from Roy Keane.
Didn't he get sent off?
Yeah, he did.
Roy Keane did get sent off in the 74th minute, but yes, he did start for Manchester United. So Ben, you just need to name someone from either team who played in that game out of the 14 available. Well, 14, 13 now.
Well, I'm going to get this out of the way early because I remember crying when this happened, and arguably if this goal went in, United's treble would never have happened, and their downfall would have happened after that. But nonetheless, Dennis Bergkamp missed the famous penalty.
He did indeed, yes. Dennis Bergkamp played and started for Arsenal.
And the goalkeeper that saved it was Peter Schmeichel.
It was indeed Peter Schmeichel, yes.
And the better goalkeeper at the time, cue debate, is David Seaman.
Yes, David Seaman obviously starting in goal.
I'm not sure about that.
Arsenal.
Although that save from Pesky Solido is the best save I've ever seen.
Absolutely. Sheffield United
Yeah,
at Old Trafford.
Yeah, FA Cup semi-final.
Legend. There you go.
Legend, Pesky Solido. I'm going to go for the person who made the assist for one of the goals. It was Patrick Vieira.
Hang on, so we're allowed to mention Man United players?
You can
Yeah,
mention
even
any
Oh,
player.
you won. Okay,
yeah.
fair enough.
So Patrick Vieira did start for them, yes, indeed.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go with Martin Keown.
Martin Keown did start for Arsenal at centre back. We're getting tense now.
I'm going to go for
It's amazing when you haven't got the pressure of not playing. I've got about 8 names again.
Teddy Sheringham.
Teddy Sheringham started for Manchester United. He was substituted on the 76th minute, though.
I'm going to go for Lee Dixon.
Lee Dixon started at right back for Arsenal,
I
yes.
can't believe no one's gone for the obvious one.
No. They're saving that, isn't it? Which is a
Oh,
bold,
Craig's
bold
playing his
move.
tactical game now.
All that
I'm
talent.
just naming the first one.
Nicholas Anelka.
Nicholas Anelka did start for Arsenal up front, yes.
I think I might go for the obvious one now. Phil Neville.
Phil Neville did play. I mean, that definitely wasn't the obvious one, but yeah. Phil Neville obviously
Well,
started
he gave away the
for...
penalty,
He
didn't
gave away
did,
a penalty.
he did indeed,
Do you
yeah.
know who he fouled that day? It was only Ray Parlour.
It was Ray Parlour who was substituted in the 105th minute. But yes, Ray Parlour did start for Arsenal.
I'm going to go with one of the most underrated players for Arsenal during the 90s, Nigel Winterburn.
Nigel Winterburn started left back
That's
for
a
Arsenal.
very
that day,
bold
yes.
statement.
I'm just bigging up my Arsenal.
David Beckham
David Beckham started for Manchester United. Yes,
scored.
He
An
did.
absolute weldy.
A free kick.
Wasn't a free kick.
Was it a free kick?
No. He looked like a free kick though, the way he scored.
Oh, okay, my apologies. Yeah. This is
Well,
why I'm...
that was riveting.
Go on.
Great. Tony Adams.
Tony Adams, yes, started at centre back with Martin Keown, who you already named.
Oh,
Yapstam did start for Manchester United. I mean, we are in uncharted territory. I don't think this game has ever gone on this long, and I haven't been taking notes. So normally we're out by about 4 players. Right, go on.
The longest guest to find ever is with the guest.
Was not against the phone.
No, his name actually is Scott, isn't it?
Go on.
it's my go, isn't it?
Yeah.
Dennis Irwin.
Unfortunately, Dennis Irwin did not feature in that game
Ah,
at all.
I'm baffled at this point.
unbelievable.
So to take the win against your brother and bragging rights until he makes
until he
another
beats me on
another
Provo
guest-
later.
another
probably.
guest appearance.
Ryan Giggs.
Ryan Giggs.
Why didn't you go for that one?
Do you know what, in my head I thought you said that first.
No, Ryan
Did
Giggs.
you not see him
obviously-
running around a picture of his shirt?
Ryan Giggs come off the bench. I didn't
Yeah,
know.
he's too busy crying.
60.
Skulls. Did Nelson Zebas play, or did he get
No,
sent off the game
I'm gonna
before?
go. No, he didn't. He
Was
didn't
Overmars
play
there?
that.
Yeah,
I'll go
he
through the teams now.
He
So,
fouled Keane.
in
Sorry,
obviously starting,
Petit play.
we're starting with Arsenal. We had David Seaman, Lee Dixon, Tony Adams, Martin Keown, Nigel Winterburn, Freddie Ljungberg,
Oh, Ben.
Ray Parler, Emmanuel Petit, Patrick
You've let me down.
I should have said Petit.
Nicholas Anelka, and Dennis Bergkamp. Coming off the bench that day, Mark Overmars, Carnu, and Steve Bold
I'm disappointed.
came on in the 119th minute for Emmanuel Petit. For United that day, you had Peter Schmeichel, Gary Neville, Ronnie Johnson,
What a guy.
Yapstam, Phil Neville, David Beckham, Jesper Blomqvist, Nicky Butt, Roy Keane, Teddy Sheringham, and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And on
He's
the
at the
bench,
wheel. He's
on
at
the
the wheel.
on the bench that day came on Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, and Dwight York.
Yeah, Dwight York.
So, unfortunately, Dan, despite us bringing on a substitute for you, you have still lost.
Still lost.
I would have been fairly confident in that one as well.
Would you got through on that?
Well, it is current. Well, I'm not even going to say the scoreline because Cody didn't play.
I don't. In this case, I don't think the
I don't-
scores matter.
score
I
doesn't
think
matter.
bragging rights over
Bragging
next Sunday
rights.
roast you and Ben have is
It's-
more sweet than any points you can get.
Yeah, it's absolutely fine.
And the important question for that Sunday roast is what meat are you having?
Well, I'll be around Sunday and I think we're due chicken.
Chicken, always a safe choice.
Chicken's always safe choice. And that is it for today's ramble. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and leave a comment in the section. What do you think of our guest? Should have come back. Probably didn't.
Alright,
You can follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3.
no trolls.
And we'll see you next time.